scare him away.
Everybody got the coffee? Except our East Coast friends. What are you guys, 4 hours? What time is it? No, what time is it? Let me bring my damn phone. It's gotta be 8 anyway. 8 o'clock? Noon for you guys. Lunch break. Lunch break, sneaking in some YouTube maybe. I was going through my emails this morning. So I had my first coffee with Sarah. And then after the animals get fed, and then I had my second coffee in here with you guys. And then I go hit my day. While we're sitting there, I go through my emails, and I don't know if everyone remembers or not, but I had to get this new phone because my other phone was just basically annihilated, and it got wiped of all the content. And I had around, I don't know how many, it was in the thousands or the hundreds. It would have been over 900, over 800 or 900 for certain, maybe 2,500 altogether. Emails in that one phone, gone. And the majority of those were copied and saved in the phone to be read and shared with all of you. So that means that I'm chipping at it when I get 10 minutes or whatever, and I go in my inbox and I'll go back. I don't know how many pages, because I never delete an email. I keep them there no matter what. And as well, once I have loaded a video onto YouTube, I save that video as well. All of them. I don't know why. Something's telling me to. So anyways, I'm trying to go back into my inbox to find emails, because unfortunately they're all marked as red once I open them. And I'm trying to find emails that I lost, that I didn't read. And I found some. So I don't believe I didn't read this. Usually I can remember, not all the time obviously, but usually. So, here's one right here that I found this morning, and I'm going to share this right now. If it sounds obviously familiar, I'll stop. I picked up one email, started with, third email, quote, our friend the goofy Bigfoot, end quote, following up as per request with details, shorter. Hi Steve, all I can say is, wow, thanks again for reading my email so soon. You can't imagine the trepidation that I felt after hitting the send button on that one. They say, quote, the truth will set you free, end quote. And I've just breathed a huge sigh of relief listening to acknowledge and validate a huge part of my life. Thank you, brother. I could literally write a book about my encounters with this guy. But you and your audience are enough for me. My winter break is over and I'm back over the road now. Currently sitting in Evanston, Wyoming, near Salt Lake City, Utah, on I-80, heading for Sacramento, California, at a truck stop, getting ready to lay my head down. I will drive all day tomorrow with my head held high, thanks to you. Anyway, just one more note before I give you the details you asked for. You mentioned your tinnitus before closing out the episode with my story in it. I've had tinnitus since the one and only day that Goofy used Mindspeak on me in 2005. It's been constant without waiver since that day. That's interesting. Do I think his Mindspeak gave it to me? Absolutely yes. So, details. In 1979, he was probably about 6 foot tall, a juvenile, skinny, arms past his knees, long, skinny fingers with dark orange to brownish hair, kind of like an orangutan. The hair in his arms was up to his knuckles. Hair, not fur. The hair hung off his arms probably about 6 inches. The skin on his hands was black, with noticeable fingernails, hairy knuckles. His breastplate was covered with hair, but thinner, so you could see the black skin underneath. The hair on his legs was all the way to his ankles, just as long and flowing, black and bare metatarsals with hair on the knuckles of the toes. In the early days, there were no noticeable muscles under the hair, but that would change over time, as would most of his features. His head and face back then were a bit goofy looking. It was like his head was too big for his body, something he'd grow into, lol. A conical shaped head with hair covering everything but his face. The hair started under his chin. Black face. But enough hair on his black face to resemble a week-old beard. His facial hair was black, not orangish brown like the rest of his body. Big, black, oversized eyes with 90% pupils and a huge flat nose resembling a gorilla. Very pronounced lips and teeth resembling human teeth in their shape but much larger. Over the years this would all change. The last time I actually had eyes on him in 2000, he had drastically changed in appearance. Slowly over time his hair went from long and flowing to short and more fur-like, from orange/brownish looking to black like night. The muscles under his hair became from looking like a skinny monkey to that of a freakish bodybuilder with huge pronounced muscles. From his biceps to his legs and especially the chest and back. His long skinny fingers became like 5 fat pieces of meat about the size of my wrist. Holy shit. His feet became like that of a basketball player to snowshoes. His head went from conical to round and flat on the top. Again, much like a gorilla. I estimate that he was double in height from the last time I laid eyes on him. I can equate this to a scene from The Incredible Hulk taking place over 20-some years. His scent also changed over the years and went from that of a deer in heat mixed with a pissy diaper to that of a skunk mixed with rotting flesh. I hope that answers some questions. Instead of jet lag, I've got what I call truck lag. I've only been back on the road for 5 days and I'm on the East Coast, and I'm on East Coast time. Need to get some epic sleep. I can't wait to drive over to Salt Flats tomorrow and into Nevada and California. God bless you, man. Out. Okay, well that's not the email I was thinking I was just going to read. That's another one. That was February of 04. February 04, 2023. Alright, so I guess if we go back into the YouTube, well, who knows when. That original email's there. And I can't think of the first one off the top of my nugget right now. Sorry. That is quite the frickin' email though, is it not? Can you imagine having to knowing who you're looking at for that many years and watching the sucker change in appearance? There's a lot of very interesting details in there, right? Especially for the people who are interested in exactly how they grow and change and look. Crazy, man. I hope you're driving safe. Hope you're still safe and still with us. Here's another one titled, It Walked Right Past Us. This is sent in 2020. Hi Stephen, 38 years old from Wales in the UK. This happened when I was 21. The chance this has been read. So in about 2003, a friend and I had been traveling around the US and we went to Seattle because we're both fans of the grunge music scene. We only had a couple days left in the area and we wanted to see some of the countryside. So we drove to Olympic National Park. I grew up looking at my bedroom window across the ocean to that place. Or the Olympics anyways. I don't know the exact location. Because we just found a place to park, we saw a trail and started walking. We walked up this trail that had a creek running by the left-hand side, and the trail gradually went uphill as the slope down to the creek got higher and steeper. After maybe a couple of miles of gradual incline, the trail got rather steep, but then plateaued, and there was an abrupt turn right at the top that created like a blind corner. We stopped at the top of the hill to catch our breath. I was standing with my back to the way we came, and my friend was standing in front and to my right, facing the way we just came. We stood there for what seemed like maybe a few minutes. Then I noticed my friend was just standing there with his mouth open, staring at something behind me. I said, "What is it? What's wrong?" I was expecting him to say it was a bear or something. Then he just nodded, motioning with his head to look behind me. Just as I was turning to look behind me, this great big mass brushed past me and walked off ahead of us. Obviously, I nearly jumped out of my skin and said, "What the F?" It took me a second to realize what I was seeing. It took a few steps away from us. It took a few steps away from us, turned its shoulder as it was walking and grunted, looking right at us. The only impression I got was to just look away. Excuse me. So I'm standing there looking at the ground with my eyes wide open, thinking this dude does not want me to look at him. I couldn't help it. I looked up again. And after a few seconds, it turned and looked at me again, like it knew I was looking at it. Pattern. This time he gave us a bigger grunt, and it literally rattled my rib cage. So I'm standing there staring at the ground again, trying to keep it in my peripheral vision. It walked maybe another 50 feet up the trail from us, got to the tree line, and pretty much disappeared into thin air. My friend just stood there with his mouth open the whole time like he was in shock. We immediately headed back down the trail and got the hell out of there. I've had a lot of time to think this over, and there's definitely some things that don't make sense to me. Like, why didn't we see, hear, or smell anything on the way up to that spot? We didn't hear any footsteps behind us. It was as if it was just there all of a sudden. There was no real sense of fear. I mean, it shocked me when it brushed past me. Brushed past? Does that mean it brushed you with its hair and touched you? Holy shit, that would scare the living crap out of anybody. As it brushed past me, because I wasn't expecting it, and I literally could have reached out and touched the thing. Okay, so it didn't touch it. But it was as if it didn't give a shit that we were there. It just didn't want us looking. As it went, it grunted at me. That was the only time I really felt a sense of fear or danger. It also felt strangely like a dream, and I got the impression that it was the creature that was doing this somehow. As for a description, well, I'm a big guy, 6'6" and over 300 pounds. When this thing walked past me, and I turned to look at it, my head was about halfway up its upper arm. So it was a whole head and shoulders taller than me. So, must have been like 8.5 to 9 feet tall. One of the weirdest things was that it was blonde. A big mass of ragged, dirty, blonde hair with dark gray, almost black skin underneath it. The face was almost hairless. There was hair on the head and like a blonde beard that connected to its body hair. The eyes were brown, almost black. The face was really weathered, and he looked thoroughly pissed off. But like I said, almost didn't seem to give a shit we were there. There's a reason why I called him Dude earlier. Because that's the impression I got from this thing. Like he was some pissed off old dude living in the woods and just wants to be left alone. Anyway, that's my experience. Like I said, still kind of feels like a dream. It hasn't really affected me adversely, maybe because I was always interested in paranormal stuff and whatnot anyway. But my friend was and still is the staunch skeptic type. He absolutely refuses to talk about it, and it has affected our relationship to the point that we don't speak much anymore. I think seeing that thing just totally destroyed his worldview, and he refuses to accept it. Anyway, thanks, Steve. Keep up the good work, Dave. And nope, haven't read that one before. I would have remembered that. Dave, I appreciate that, man. Sorry it took so long to find you. I'm glad I did. Feel for your buddy, man. You know what? Even if you don't talk to him, I send him this video just for the hell of it. Send it to him. And if he does get up the balls to watch it, I'll give him a message right now, just so you know you're not alone, man. You're not alone. There is tens of thousands of people coming forward right now, and for the past handful of years, tens of thousands of people have had the same experience as you. They didn't ask for it, they're not crazy, and they are all coming forward and admitting it and sharing it publicly. Alright? It's not a bad thing to do. Although a lot of people do prefer to keep their head in the sand, right? With a lot of stuff. Holy cow, especially today. Especially today. I wonder how many of you out there stay up on top of current events. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, want to look the other way. And I'm at the point now that I almost find that statement as absolute cringe-worthy. It's cringe. This is our lifetime. This is where we live. This is the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, the experiences we all deserve to have. And the amount of freaking evil going on right now that is trying to suppress that, is suppressing it, is controlling it, is off the chart. And it affects every single human being on the planet. How do these people get that control and power? Because of all the people that refuse to acknowledge the shit they're doing. That's how. Isn't that bizarre? Biting my lip, as I freshly heard a lot of stuff this morning and read some stuff. It's amazing how many people, it's a very sad human trait, wanting to put your head in the sand in the hole and let everything go down. Pretend it isn't happening because for some strange reason you think it's more comfortable. Until you go to I gotta say this though, until you go to your local McDonald's or Subway or whatever and you notice that all of the employees are seniors. Now that is enough to make my blood boil. All those classic jobs that we all had when we were kids, our first jobs, young people's jobs to get that work experience, are all filled by senior citizens today. Why is that? I know I'm rambling. Let me get some more caffeine in me, shall we? Moving along. More voices to be heard. Okay, no, unrelated. It's this one. Alright, here we go. You know what? One thing I've found, like when I'm trying to find, when I go through my emails, is because I try to check and make sure it's an email from somebody needs to be heard. Because I get so many emails, you guys. I get hundreds of emails of people looking for sponsors, looking for me to sponsor them on the channel, paying me to put their videos on the channel. I have hundreds of emails from various businesses around the globe saying they found the channel, they really want to advertise with you. Haven't replied to one once. But anyways, what I'm saying is I do somewhat skim a little bit to make sure the email is related to all of you and it was meant for all of you, because I get all those other flavors of emails too, right? And I get tons of, hey, you gotta watch this video, or stuff on the needle. I get emails about every topic on the planet. So what I'm saying is, when I'm trying to find the emails from all of you, I have found that so far when there's no title, no title in the email, it just says bracket, no subject bracket, I almost don't even have to look. I know that's an encounter. Because people don't even have the time, they don't even need to title it, they just want to get it heard. And it's probably an impact. So, that's what we got, no title. Man, I'm really babbling this morning, aren't I? Don't use my name, thank you. My family loved to camp, hunt, and fish. Anything in the outdoors. As a young boy, we camped almost every weekend. And fished this lake hard. So we could have large fish fries throughout the year. Getting to it now. My brothers and I would sleep in a little cheap tent unless it was raining. I would always have the same dream every time we camped there. I was carried away by a bear. That's a little unnerving. And took to this small cove. I myself could not fit in it. Oh, sorry. And took to this small cave. I myself could not fit in it. But in my dream, it would walk right into the cave. Then I would wake up and it was morning. Always back in my tent. The other time something happened, I was older. Once at 15 and once at 17. I'd walk the bank fishing for bass. I was way up the finger of the lake and not really paying attention to anything but my lure when I heard something running through the tall grass behind me. I'm 6'3" and the grass was at least a foot taller than me. I kept hearing something run back and forth every time I would cast my lure. So I fake cast one time and I looked behind me and I saw brown hair moving very quickly in the grass. Just a blur of brown hair and maybe an arm. I immediately started heading back to camp. I could hear something walking in the woods behind me all the way back. I never got a good look at it, but it scared the shit out of me. This happened twice. Same way both times. I'd never seen its hair or body, so I can't say what it looked like. Thank you for letting me get this off my chest. I'm 61 now. It feels like it happened yesterday. No doubt. No name of the lake or the area. That's unfortunate. Sometimes, we do hope to at least somewhat get an idea of roughly where for people who may be from the same area, right? Alright, here's another one. This is a little different. Title. Mark this as read. Quote, just happened, end quote, follow up. This is in February of this year. Hi Steve, thanks for sharing my dream. February 6, 23, minute 32. I have been wary since then, and things started happening, but not how I expected it. Tonight my son came to me and asked, are my eyes tricking me, Dad? Me being clueless, I asked, what do you mean? He then proceeded to tell me he thought he saw a hairy being hiding behind his open bedroom door looking at him through the hinge gap of the door. And at another time, a hairy hand moved quickly into a shadow. I instantly became angry, not at my son, but at the circumstance. You see, when I was his age, I saw similar things. A large shadow leaving my bedroom when no one was really there, and eventually a gray manifested in plain sight, looking right at me from around a doorway, then vanished. It terrified me so much my brother and parents couldn't deny that I saw something, even to this day. I hate seeing this come around full circle. The only explanation I can give this is an evil spirit attack. I believe there's a strong connection to all the Bigfoot / gray / shadow encounters that most people experience and believe to be demonic. That all of this is happening in the invisible realm, and at times they pass through the veil and we can see them. Why we sense fear or something on our tail but see nothing. I did not let my son give in to fear, because I believe that is what these entities thrive on. You give them power by your focusing on them. I calmly acted as though it was nothing. My response gave him confidence that there was nothing to fear. I read him a Bible story, prayed with him, and he was at peace. The fear had left him entirely. So did the presence in the room. Good news. This whole experience just woke me up to realize I need to be more vigilant in protecting my family spiritually. They are not just prayers. There is real power over this evil. I somehow lost track of that. Cheers. Okay, that's interesting and alarming. Big time. The children. Leave the frickin' children alone. Right? Leave the children alone. Sometimes I think I missed my right calling. You know what I mean? Sometimes I think so. I mean, I'm doing everything I'm doing, but I'll tell you what, there's so many things out there that make me growl. I want to do something about it. And that's very frustrating. It's a very frustrating feeling to want to do something about the grief in the planet, not knowing what to do. Biting my lip again for a few minutes anyway. This is titled, better title it is read, Pics of Window Peeking in Maine. Hi Steve, it's Tara again from Montauk. However, I live in Maine. Funny thing is I share our voices via your videos on my... Funny thing is I share our voices via your videos on my social media and get reached out to with experiences. First one, no pics, was in New Paltz, Paltz or Z, New York. My friend was attending college there and went for a drive with her friend, probably to smoke a joint. They were parked at an overlook kind of spot, viewing a cliff face. They both saw a huge man-like being scale the cliff face very quickly, and as it got to the top, it went off into the timber. They both were absolutely sure what they saw. I was not able to get more details as my friend really just wanted me to know and hurriedly got off the phone. That experience was in 1990 or so. Next, my roommate shared with me 2 pictures. One of what seems very clear to me of a Sabe looking into her parents' second-story window, and another from the next day. Sorry, no recreation because you wouldn't see a person anyway. It's at a second-story window. So on to the quick story. Her parents have a couch at the end of their bed for the dog at sleep time, and also to sit and watch some TV before bed. Her stepmom and her dad were sitting on the couch watching the tube with her stepmom when her stepmom noticed something looking in their window. Being very casual, she picked up her phone and snapped a pic. Wild. The next day, she sat in the same spot and took another. I was blown away, as this house is just under a mile from where I live in Steep Falls, Maine. They haven't shared these before, so I'll keep them anonymous. However, even though we're kind of in the country, their place is very near the emergency station and a commuter road. I believe the round table will find them amazing. Pics were taken around 2020. Also, as I listen to the people, I feel I'm uncovering more and more about my own experiences. Vague stuff, however, I already know what it all was. Again, I know you'd rather me get it all in now. I feel I need to physically write it all down before I compose an email to include them. So much appreciate you and the Hound Hunt family. Glad to see you both back at home and safe, and I look forward to hearing more here and on Rumble. We are winning, and the evil do not have a chance. Not here or in hell. Big love, Tara Woodruff. Right back at you, Tara. Yep, that's creepy. If that is what we believe it is, that's really creepy. Second story window. How tall is that? 8, 16, 14 feet? Would it be? 12 feet would that be? Bottom of the window? Second story? 8 until I'm 12, probably 12 at least anyway, right? There you go. There you go. Let me save, I gotta save these photos now into my phone. Hold on a minute, save image. Then I save the next one. Then I gotta put it into my Dropbox. And then I gotta download that out of my computer. We'll get her done. Anyways, I appreciate you sending that in. That's not super clear, but if that's what they saw, that's damned alarming. I can show you guys. I can share a quick hunt story with you guys because the guys that sent the email from the Olympic National Park, Olympic Mountains, when they said they were on the hairpin, they couldn't really see around the blind corner. As soon as I said that, it made me remember an experience I had a handful of years ago, and I was guiding a man, his renowned surgeon from Oregon, Dr. Ken Tuttle. Real good guy. I got some funny stories from that hunt. Real good guy. Really enjoyed spending time with that man. And I believe he's been on CNN. He's a big name in the medical industry. Anyway, his knees were all messed up. You know, he was getting on in age, and because normally we'll walk. We get off of horses and we lead them when we go down a steep trail down off the mountain. It's just easier on their front end. And so I'm walking ahead. I let him stay on his horse just because it's just too hard on him, right? And they're big mountain horses. But anyways, we're walking down this trail. It's later in the day, so the thermals are coming up. Remember I mentioned earlier, warm up, cool down. That's a guarantee of the wind direction. Okay, you guys? For all you people that hike, camp, I use that when I'm planning on where I'm going to hike, how I'm going to move, and where I'm going to put my camp at night. I always want to be below main game trails when I camp because the air sinks down and takes my scent away from that major game trail highway. I want everything to keep cruising right by me at nighttime, so I camp below that trail. When you camp above, you have a steady stream of your scent going across that highway trail. So if that 1 in a million grizzly or human praying black bear decides, oh, what's that? A human taco in that tent. I'm gonna go get that, right? Anyways, sorry. But it's just an important point that I try to get across to everybody all the time, is make sure you sleep on the downhill side of a Maine trail at nighttime. Period. If you're on slope ground. Anyway, so I'm walking down this trail. No, it's already. So if you're stalking game and all of a sudden you come up on a grizzly sow with cubs by accident, she sees you in that body language, she's gonna come and kill you. She's not gonna think for a second it was an accident, it was a random occurrence. She's gonna think, predator, coming to kill my babies, you're dead. And that's what she would have done if she saw me running down the trail right on her ass, right? God, I mean, it's not that much of an exciting story, but whew. And there's nothing I could have done. Nothing. If she has, and she didn't see me. She didn't see me. And then when she got to the other side, and I had back then I had a video camera with those little hi8 tapes in it, and I got the video of her somewhere because we kept on riding. We didn't go down that trail, and I kept side hilling. On this side, it was steep, like that, and the game trail was side hilling, and then across the creek. And she went up there, and she stopped and turned around, and all because we rode by. Once I got about 100 yards past her, then I turned around. I could see her. I go, there she is, right there. And we're up here, creek bottom, and she's right here across from us. We're looking at her. And her fur was all puffed up like a dandelion, and she was pissed. Standing there looking at us. It just gives me the creep still to think that I was running up behind her on her ass. Anyways, sorry, but that our person that shared from the Olympics experience with the blind corner put me right back to that day. Here's another one. Title, this is Red. Bigfoot hunting us on Indian Reservation. Hello, Steve. I grew up on an Indian reservation here in the USA. I am Cherokee Indian. Our home was by a massive cave system. Our home was in the middle of 2 hills and had a cave on the property. Everyone on the reservation knows Sasquatch, Sabe exists. It's common knowledge where we come from. It isn't even questioned. We would know his moods just by the sounds he made. When he is upset, you would know it because his anger would be heard throughout the whole reservation. People talked about it people talked about it in casual conversation. For instance, did you hear Sasquatch upset last night, etc. My grandparents told me not to fear him because they had a pact with him and he would not harm us. All was good until more Sasquatch came. These were evil ones. Not the same as the Sasquatch that had always been there. He had been ran off from the territory, we believe. I had to walk down a long dirt road to get to my school bus. They would chase me up in the woods beside me, whooping and throwing rocks at me. I was terrified, and I got a feeling they wanted to hurt me. It kept getting worse. I refused to even walk to school after that. At night, when my cousins would come over and we would all play outside in the front yard, these new Sasquatch would gather around in the hills with their glowing red eyes and watch us. I know if our parents would have not been out there, they would have taken us and harmed us. I could feel it. I could sense their bad intentions. I told my family they were bad. My uncle did not listen. He went for a walk alone to the water, which was like 1.5 miles from our house. He was drowned in knee-deep water and was an avid swimmer. No wounds, just a mysterious death, but I knew they killed him. He was the first in many unknown mysterious deaths that started to occur by the water in that area. The person was always alone. It was always a mystery. I'm glad I stuck with my gut feelings because they were getting more aggressive every day that I had walked to school. I believe my instincts saved my life. To this day, they are still killing people in the area. The person is always alone and the death is always a mystery. But I know, and so does the other natives. Stay out there and always follow your instincts. I'll send you more stories at a later date. Thank you for listening, Carrie. That was February of this year. Carrie, please email us more with as many details as you can find and share with us. All right. We need to hear more about this. The world needs to hear about this. Every single person on the planet needs to hear about this, all right? It's very, very important. So maybe even possibly, if you're here, still here with us, watching the channel, share this video with your community members so they know you're not alone. People know, we know. And to please, please, please send us more details of what everybody in your community knows. Seen, witnessed, the whole 9 yards, all right? It's very, very important to speak out loud and share this truth with the people, okay? That is freaking alarming. And also, obviously, if you follow Dave Pilatus, the water, mysterious deaths, what's up with that? That's very alarming. Very alarming. Please email us back, alright? I hope you email us back. Two stories and a weird occurrence that I've repeated several times that I don't think I've ever heard on your show. That's the title of this email. I'm 59 years old. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. I've spent a ton of time the last 10 years driving an hour and a half from my home to southern Indiana to hike in a system of forests, 3 of which are roughly 24,000 acres each, which all connect to one large forest that's roughly 250,000 acres called the Hoosier National Forest. I spend a lot of free time hanging out in one of the 3 forests, hiking and listening and hiding from my wife, which she actually likes. I met up with a group maybe 8 years ago that hikes at night and sits by campfires at night in out-of-the-way places, listening for whoops and calls and screams. Why? I camped out for the weekend in a tent with 5 of the inner circle of the group 3 weeks ago and found a print in a creek within 50 yards of my tent the first night we were there. I showed 2 members of our group. Most of the inner circle of this group have had multiple sightings and have had handprints, footprints, and fingerprints in the sides of the creeks and recordings of howls, whoops, and screams. I've heard whoops of what I call a snuffle snort sounding noise close up and howls at a distance, but I've never heard screams personally. I've been paralleled in the woods a ton of times. I've had rocks thrown at me more times than I could count, one of which was a 15-pound rock thrown 100 yards uphill, which we heard coming through the leaves in the trees, and which landed between my son and I after we smelled a super rancid sewage animal smell. I've had numerous tracks in the forest that I found numerous tracks in the forest that I normally go to. Sorry guys. I have found numerous tracks in the forest that I normally go to. 2 stories and 1 weird occurrence that's happened multiple times. I was in a small valley with a creek that meanders through it, and the valley is maybe 100 yards wide. And the left side of the valley is maybe 12 stories tall and steep. When you start hiking into the valley, you will see arc after arc after arc right next to each other, which is really very cool. There's a bunch of downed trees that cover the valley at one point where people just turn around, but I always hike past it for fun, climbing over all the limbs and proceed further into the valley before turning around. On this day, I was walking back, something was on the top of the ridge 12 stories up from me, meowing at me in sets of 3 quickly so loud that it filled up the valley and echoed. When it made the noise, I would stop and it would retreat the other way that I had already come, as if it was trying to lure me away from where I was going. This went on for about 5 minutes, and then the ridge stopped, so it couldn't continue following me unseen. As I kept walking, I heard what sounded like a 4-inch fresh stick break, about 60 feet to my right. I stopped and stared into these bushes, not very far away from me, and didn't see anything, and I turned and stuck 1 foot out to walk, and there was another loud stick break and crack, and I stopped and stared into the bushes again. I again turned to walk again, and a 3rd crack from a large, fresh, broken limb. I stopped. Pretty soon the meowing on my left, high up, started again, and was answered by what sounded like a cow or a bull on the trail behind me and back to my car. There are farms near the forest, but there were no cows in the woods. I figured I should probably go. Very cool, but very creepy. I never saw anything. That same spot, I've answered wood knocks from the high ground to my left. Second encounter, I hiked back to my favorite spot in the same woods to this pond that I go to that's very out of the way and very steep on the side. The last 400 or 500 yards. So a lot of people don't go to it. I've had numerous weird interactions there over the years, and it's a favorite place to go if I want to try to find a print. I hiked from the car back to the pond from this fire trail is roughly 2 miles. Go there looking for footprints. And I've found many over the years, and I'm always alone when I get there and never see a soul around. It was during the week or so no one was in this park but me. There was no other car around in this very small parking muddy spot area, so I know it's just me back there. I hiked 40 minutes to the pond, and as I get there, I see what is clearly a footprint and a really small gravel on the sandy sides of the creek. I'd left my plaster of Paris in the car, so I decided to make the 40-minute hike back to the car uphill with a bad knee and overweight. I got the plaster of Paris for my car and hiked the 40 minutes back downhill to the pond, and at this point, it was absolutely spooky quiet, where before it was a nice sunny day with things moving around in the forest. I kind of looked around with the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. I then mixed up some water and plaster of Paris out of the pond and poured the print and had to wait 40 minutes for it to set up. While I was waiting, I walked around looking for other prints or just fun stuff to look at. On this hill in front of me where I saw a tree pushed over probably 5 years ago, I heard something moving above me but really didn't pay much attention to it. At the same time, I found another print much at the base of the hill in this really marshy area where a lot of trees come down and cover it if an animal were to go to that corner of the pond to drink. It was larger than the one I was casting, and much larger than my size 11 boot, where my boot went maybe 1/4 of an inch in the dirt. This was in like 4 inches deep, and it was maybe 15 inches in length and maybe 8 to 9 inches wide, and I could clearly see 5 toes in the imprint. I always carry tape measures, so the measurements are pretty close. Now I'm starting to get creeped out. It's about an hour before sundown. I still have to hike back to the after waiting for my I still have to hike back to the after waiting for my cast to dry. I walked the 300 feet back to where my cast was drying. I sat down on a tree that was kind of funny shaped, like a chair almost, and stared out on the pond while my print dried. As I was sitting here, I heard a big crack. I immediately spun my head to the left and I saw a long, light, brown hairy arm and tan-colored hand snap off the top 8 feet, maybe 15 feet, up on a tree that was maybe 4 inches thick and drag it to the ground super fast in this corner of the pond where I'd just been standing. That was maybe 6 or 7 feet lower than the ground I was standing on in this marshy area. I immediately stood up and yelled, "I'm leaving. I don't want anything from your forest, it's not mine." I looked at my print and it wasn't dry yet, so I stood there another 2 minutes until I heard what sounded like feet stomping on the path somewhere behind me loudly. And I yelled again, "I'm leaving," and I left. I'm always armed with a 9mm and a large knife. I don't often get frightened in the woods, but going up that steep hill, I called my wife to tell her I loved her, and I called the head of the group to ask if he thought these beings were dangerous, which is a little late after 10 years of being, which is a little late after 10 years to be asking that question. He chuckled and said he's had similar experiences at the same spot, and it's oftentimes the price you pay for getting a good footprint cast. I don't remember being that frightened with my heart pounding and feel absolutely helpless out there in the middle of nowhere with the sun going down. I still got 40 minutes to get to my car and I'm alone. I'm not embarrassed to admit I was somewhat terrified. I was paralleled all the way back to my car with my heart pounding in my chest and my temples of my head. It stopped when the forest cleared out just before where I was parked. I have a ton of other stories, but these are 2 good ones I like, and now for the weird thing. I generally drive somewhat like a maniac, so I always have a radar detector going whenever I'm driving. I never think about sitting on my I never think about it sitting on my dash, and I don't think to turn it off before I go into the woods because there's generally nothing out in the forest to set off a radar detector. I can't remember in 10 years of driving into the woods and having my radar detector go off as another spot that I like to go to at night. And I had a favorite recording from the Sierra Sounds that I play with my stereo turned all the way up and my windows and sunroof down. And I play it over and over after dark, just for the fun of it. Why? I did so on this one evening, and after playing it 3 times, my radar detector went off. Like crazy for a solid minute and a half, and then stopped. I didn't think much of it and drove home. The hour and a half it takes to get to my house. I come back to the forest on 2 other occasions and tried the same experiment where I played the Sierra Sounds recording. That's a really aggressive one with a lot of samurai chatter that ends with a whistle, and sure enough, after playing it 3 times, my radar detector each time has gone off like crazy for what seems like a minute or a minute and a half, and then it stops. My son was home visiting from California, and we ended up out in the woods because he knows I like to go. And without telling him anything, I said, watch this. I'm going to play this recording, and my radar detector is going to go off like crazy. And sure enough, it did. He was kind of stunned. He's a believer and has had pebbles tossed at him in the middle of the night more than once. And he's heard moans and groans and whoops a couple times. I take him out with our group in the middle of the night. I watch the show so much that I turn it off when my wife walks in the door as I'm watching. As if I'm watching porn because she probably thinks she lives with a complete weirdo. I love what you do. It's nice hearing all the data from you and all the stories. I find myself nodding yes a lot when I hear some of the interactions in the stories that you read. And I can think I've had a lot of the same ones, but I often times doubt myself because I'm always alone in the woods. I know that I can't go online and find many Bigfoot stories that I have already seen multiple times, and I spend thousands of hours on the topic. I know we have little woods compared to your big woods where you are, but we have the forest people in southern Indiana. And my friend who runs the group in the state and gets all the phone calls when there's a sighting can testify. They're all over southern Indiana. Best wishes, Jeff and Indy. Whew, that was a long one. Okay, Jeff. I don't know what you're after. Teach their own. I'm not making fun of everybody. I'm just saying. For me, okay, I've seen one of these things, maybe 2, maybe even 3, who knows. And I don't need to go in the dark and try to attract them. I don't need to go out in the woods in the dark and try to get attention on me. Don't need it. I don't know why you guys do that. You already know they exist. You know it's real. You know it's factual. I wonder what it is that keeps people wanting to go out there and do that. What are you going to get from it? Besides a shit scared out of you. Or potentially even maybe you don't know what you're attracting. Maybe you're going to get gone, But anyway, that's an interesting one, and I agree, we haven't heard that come up yet. I am not familiar with radar detectors. I've never had one in my life. But now that we shared that with everybody here, I wonder how many of you crazy bastards are going to go out there and do this. Now, what's setting it off? First you got to figure out how do radar detectors go off, right? And then see if you can relate that to a lot of the experiences being shared here in the details. Being shared here, right? That's very interesting. And I'll guarantee you somebody out there listening to this is going to go give that a go, ASAP. I'll put money on it. We'll see what comes, man. We'll see what comes. Something tells me somebody's going to email back sometime in the near future and say, it worked, it did it. Who knows, right? Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. All right. One more. Back out to my frickin' labor camp I got going on around here. My own personal labor camp for me to be the laborer. Oklahoma, Sabe family. I wrote to you in March 22 to tell you of my and my mom's experience about seeing a tall, skinny Sabe. So yesterday, I went to an eye doctor. The optician was asking me questions about my sight, with one being night vision. I said yes, then mentioned my sighting of a sabe, which was a mile from where she lived. Excuse me. She had a weird look on her face and told me that her family and neighbors are in the house and locked up by dark because of the sabe, which live around the community, and her neighbors all have the same experiences. They live a mile from the lake and all agree not to talk about it. I can't keep my mouth shut. I tell everybody. My brother and nephew don't believe me. And my brother and nephew don't believe me and my and mom's sighting. Typo. She means her brother and nephew don't believe her and her mother's sighting. Our sighting happened on a very dark night. I can't drive that good at night, so I slow down to about 10 miles an hour, and so close to the edge of the road. That's when I thought I almost hit a man. Made me sick. But this man was totally black, which I thought was crazy, being dressed in black and carrying a big trash can on his head. That made me wonder until I figured out what I'd seen, asked Mom what she saw about 50 times. We saw the same thing, and that scared me. When Mom knew I was okay, she said for us to go back and look. She's a Native American, and I never knew what she would say, but I had to make it clear the dumb blonde always got eaten by the monster, and I'm blonde for my dad. I've lost my mom, and I wish I could have went back for her sake. Steve, you have a great channel I'd appreciate. Common sense doesn't exist, but Dad, World War II, made sure us kids had it. Dad was on Normandy Beach. I was so blessed to have him as my dad. I'll bet you were, for sure. Carrying a trash can on his head, so maybe was packing it on his shoulder, right? Who knows? But if that comes from a community where everybody knows, there's got to be somebody there willing to crack. Somebody willing to crack and share. Maybe. That was a short one. Maybe I could get one more. I don't even know how long I never know how long I've been sitting here. It's almost like my internal clock goes off around an hour or something. Alright, here we go. Excuse me. Mark, this is red. Ear pressure is legit is the title of this email. Hi Steve, in response to your question about ear pressure, yes, there is a trail on which I hike frequently in Ashfield, Massachusetts, where I have felt the pressure on several occasions. It feels exactly when you equalize your ears during a scuba diving descent or ascent. Whenever I go hiking, I say out loud, blessings from the great creator. I'm not here to see you or take your photo or harass you in any way. I'm just here to enjoy nature and get some exercise, so please do not show yourself to me because I don't want to be scared. Always leave a gift for the furry woodland creatures, usually apples, peanut butter, crackers, or seeds and nuts, whether for the sabe or the deer or the squirrels. I look at the gesture as a sort of a thank you for letting me tromp around in your yard. I don't usually carry my pistol on this trail. I've had 2 incidents on this trail that were strange yet positive. On my return toward the parking lot after hiking a few miles, I was worried about an approaching steep, slippery, muddy embankment that I had to climb, and kept wishing that I had a walking stick to help prevent a fall. Within a few minutes, I came across a 4-foot stick in the middle of the muddy trail. It was standing vertically on its own, like someone had jabbed it into the ground. I had to laugh because it was a rainy, cold November weekday morning and no one was hiking except me. The stick definitely hadn't been there when I passed this area earlier, and I have a feeling that it did not just fall from the sky either. The other incident that occurred on this trail was pretty funny. I was hiking with a black lab puppy who was obsessed with fetching the stick. I've been throwing the damn stick nonstop for her literally miles, and my arm was tired. She kept bringing back the stick and bringing the stick. She kept bringing the stick and bringing the stick, and I kept telling her out loud, enough with this stick. Can't we just walk, doggy? Then I heard a thud behind me. I turned to see a stick that had landed right on the hiking trail about 3 feet behind me, and I was flabbergasted. There were no dead branches above us, and the dog was alerting to something out in the trees, but she didn't look frightened or upset, just curious. I laughed, waved in that general direction, and yelled, "Thank you." I guess that was a sign that the fetch game was not supposed to end quite yet. Lucky me. I've seen the stick structures on other remote trails along with the broken trees. I know these forest people are out there, and I'm grateful they have not shown themselves to me. I'm sorry for all the people in the Howdent family who've had suffered PTSD from having negative encounters with these beings. I pray that everyone will be able to someday go back out into the woods and enjoy themselves once again. With deep gratitude, Steve, for all you do to help people. Many blessings to you, your family, and all your beautiful animals. Warmly, Jennifer Lapierre. Thanks, Jennifer. Appreciate your kind words. Appreciate it much. One thing for certain is there is more going on out there than just the typical classic description of these beings and who and what they are, right? And that was a little bit of a red flag goes up when the previous emailer in this video mentioned that they had those beings around the community and then they left and were replaced by something not so nice with the red glowing eyes, right? And people started dying. What's up with that one? That's not cool. But anyway, time to start my day. Share my story at howtohunt.com is where the majority of everybody emails in. Alright? So, knowledge, I don't give a shit. You got something that's going to help the good people on this planet, you send it here and I'll share it with them. Alright? There's so much going on in the world as I struggle at times to just keep my mouth shut because I want to just scream it out and talk about it. But I do have a funny feeling that the people that do care are already informed anyway, right? The people that don't care, I mean, there's too much going on out there. There's too much information and facts available to let everybody know what is actually really truly happening in the world today. That I have a funny feeling that people that really do give a shit and want to make a difference, they already know. I'm gonna go. Too much caffeine this morning, eh?
There it is. There's where we weathered the storm. Actually, no. There's where we hiked to during the storm.